My beloved child, I need you to stop everything you're doing right now. Put down your phone, close your laptop, silence every distraction around you. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about your purpose, your pain, and the very reason you've been struggling to find meaning in this broken world. You see, there's something happening in the spiritual realm at this very moment that most people cannot see. The enemy has been whispering lies into your ear, telling you that you're forgotten, that you're too broken, that your mistakes have disqualified you from my love. But I'm here to tell you something that will change everything you thought you knew about your life. Right now, as you're listening to these words, there are angels surrounding you. Not because you've earned it, not because you've been perfect, but because you are mine. You belong to me. And the enemy is trembling because he knows that once you truly understand what I'm about to reveal to you, his hold over your life will be broken forever. Do you feel that stirring in your heart? That's not coincidence. That's not emotion. That's my spirit calling out to the deepest part of your soul. The part that has been crying out for truth, for hope, for a reason to keep going, when everything around you seems to be falling apart. I want you to understand something that religious leaders won't tell you. Something that the world has twisted and perverted beyond recognition. You think you know who I am because of what you've heard in church, because of what people have said about me, because of the image that has been painted of me as some distant, angry God waiting to strike you down the moment you mess up. But that's not who I am at all. I am the one who left everything, the glory of heaven, the worship of angels, the perfection of eternity, to come down into your mess, into your pain, into your broken world, not to condemn you, but to save you, not to point fingers at your failures, but to take those failures upon myself and transform them into something beautiful. You've been carrying shame that was never meant to be yours. You've been fighting battles that I already won. You've been struggling to earn something that I freely gave you the moment I breathed life into your lungs, and the enemy has been laughing, watching you exhaust yourself, trying to be good enough, trying to do enough, trying to be enough, when all along, you already are enough in my eyes. But here's what's about to change everything, and this is why I need your complete attention. The reason you've been going through what you've been going through, the reason you faced the rejection, the betrayal, the loss, the depression, the anxiety, the fear, none of it has been wasted. None of it has been meaningless. Every single tear you've cried, every single night you've laid awake wondering if things would ever get better, every single moment you've felt like giving up, I was there, collecting every tear, feeling every pain, and weaving it all together into something that will blow your mind. You think your story is over. You think your best days are behind you. You think you've made too many mistakes, burned too many bridges, wasted too many opportunities. But what if I told you that everything you think is an ending is actually just the beginning? What if I told you that every single thing you've been through was preparing you for something so incredible, so beyond what you could ask or imagine, that when it happens, you'll fall to your knees in worship, because you'll finally understand that I never left you? Not even for a second? The world has taught you to measure your worth by your performance, by your achievements, by what other people think of you. But I'm about to show you a completely different way of living, a way that will set you free from the exhausting cycle of trying to prove yourself over and over again. You see, there's a secret that the enemy doesn't want you to know, something that would completely destroy his ability to torment you with guilt, shame, and condemnation. This secret is so powerful that when you truly grasp it, it will transform not just how you see yourself, but how you see everyone around you. It will change how you respond to criticism, how you handle rejection, how you face your fears, and how you walk through the storms of life. This secret has been hidden in plain sight, written in the stars before the foundation of the world, whispered in the wind, declared in every sunrise, and demonstrated in every act of love you've ever witnessed. But the enemy has worked overtime to keep you from seeing it, to keep you distracted, to keep you focused on your problems instead of my promises. And right now, in this moment, I'm pulling back the veil. I'm about to reveal to you something that will make you understand why you've never been able to find lasting satisfaction in the things of this world, why every achievement has felt empty, why every relationship has left you wanting more, why every success has been followed by a strange sense of longing for something greater. You were never meant to find your fulfillment in temporary things, because you were created for eternity. You were never meant to find your identity in what you do, because your identity is found in whose you are. You were never meant to earn my love, because my love for you is not based on your behavior, it's based on my character, and my character never changes. But here's where it gets even more incredible. And this is what I need you to prepare your heart for. Because what I'm about to tell you next is going to challenge everything you've been taught about forgiveness, about grace, about second chances, and about the power of redemption. The thing about forgiveness that will completely revolutionize your life is this. It's not something you have to beg me for. It's not something you have to earn through good behavior or religious rituals. It's not something I reluctantly give after you've proven yourself worthy. Forgiveness is something I've already given. Something I gave before you even knew you needed it. Something I demonstrated when I hung on that cross and declared, "It is finished." But the enemy has convinced you that forgiveness is conditional, that grace has limits, that there's a line you can cross where even my love can't reach you. He's whispered lies into your mind, telling you that what you did last week, last month, last year was too much, too dark, too shameful for even God to forgive. And every time you've believed that lie, you've moved further away from the very source of life, hope, and healing that your soul desperately needs. Let me tell you about a woman I met at a well in Samaria. She had been married 5 times and was living with a man who wasn't her husband. In that culture, she was considered the lowest of the low, an outcast among outcasts. She came to draw water in the heat of the day because she couldn't face the judgment in the eyes of the other women who came in the cool of the morning. She had given up on love, given up on acceptance, given up on the possibility that anyone could ever see past her failures to the beautiful soul I created her to be. But when I looked at her, I didn't see her mistakes. I saw her destiny. I didn't see her shame. I saw her potential. I didn't see her past. I saw her future. And in that moment, everything changed for her because she encountered love without conditions, acceptance without requirements, and hope without limits. That's exactly how I see you right now. Not through the lens of what you've done or haven't done, but through the lens of who I created you to be and what I'm calling you to become. The shame you carry is not your identity. The mistakes you've made are not your definition. The failures you've experienced are not your final destination. You see, there's something about the way I love that the human mind struggles to comprehend because it's so different from human love. Human love says, "I love you because," but my love says, "I love you, period." Human love fluctuates based on performance, but my love remains constant regardless of behavior. Human love has conditions and limitations, but my love is limitless and unconditional. And this is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every religious box that people have tried to put me in. You think you need to clean up your life before you can come to me, but I'm telling you to come to me so I can clean up your life. You think you need to get your act together before you can approach my throne, but I'm inviting you to come boldly, just as you are, with all your mess, all your questions, all your doubts, all your fears. The religious spirit wants you to believe that you have to perform to earn my presence. But I want you to understand that my presence is what empowers your performance. It's not about trying harder. It's about trusting deeper. It's not about doing more. It's about being more aware of what I've already done. When I walked this earth, the religious leaders were constantly trying to trap me, to get me to condemn people, to get me to draw lines and exclude those they deemed unworthy. But every single time, I chose love over law, mercy over judgment, inclusion over exclusion. I ate with tax collectors and sinners. I touched the untouchable. I forgave the unforgivable. I loved the unlovable. And nothing has changed. I am the same yesterday, today, and forever. The same heart that beat with compassion for the woman caught in adultery beats with compassion for you. The same love that restored Peter after he denied me 3 times is the same love that's working to restore every broken area of your life right now. The same grace that transformed Paul from a murderer into an apostle is the same grace that's available to transform your greatest weakness into your greatest strength. But here's what I need you to understand, and this is crucial. The transformation doesn't happen through willpower or self-effort. It happens through surrender. It happens when you stop trying to fix yourself and start trusting me to fix what's broken. It happens when you stop hiding your flaws and start bringing them into the light of my love where they can be healed. The reason so many people struggle with change is because they're trying to change from the outside in, instead of allowing me to change them from the inside out. They're focusing on modifying their behavior instead of allowing me to transform their heart. They're trying to clean up their life to impress me, not realizing that I'm not impressed by perfection. I'm moved by authenticity. I want to take you deeper now into a truth that will absolutely revolutionize how you see your struggles, your pain, and even your worst moments. You've been viewing your problems as obstacles to overcome. But what if I told you they're actually invitations to encounter my power? You've been seeing your weaknesses as disqualifications. But what if I told you they're actually the very places where my strength is made perfect? Every giant you're facing, whether it's addiction, depression, anxiety, financial struggle, relationship issues, health problems, or anything else, is not there to destroy you. It's there to reveal who I am in you and through you. It's there to teach you that you're not fighting alone, that you're not limited to your own resources, that you have access to supernatural power that can move mountains, part seas, and resurrect dead dreams. The enemy wants you to focus on the size of your problems, but I want you to focus on the size of your God. The enemy wants you to meditate on your limitations, but I want you to meditate on my limitless power. The enemy wants you to rehearse your failures, but I want you to declare my faithfulness. And this is where the story gets absolutely incredible, because what I'm about to reveal to you next will show you that every single thing you've been through, even the darkest, most painful experiences, has been preparing you for a specific assignment that only you can fulfill. You see, before you were even born, before your parents met, before their parents met, I saw you. I saw your entire life laid out before me, like an open book. I saw every choice you would make, every mistake you would commit, every victory you would achieve, and every valley you would walk through. And in that eternal moment, knowing everything you would ever do wrong, I still chose you. I still loved you. I still decided that you were worth dying for. But here's the part that will absolutely blow your mind. I didn't just see your failures and love you in spite of them. I saw how every single failure, every heartbreak, every rejection, every loss would shape you into exactly the person I need you to be for the assignment I have waiting for you. The very things you're ashamed of, the experiences you wish you could erase from your memory, the seasons of your life you consider wasted. I'm going to use every single one of them to bring healing to others who are walking through similar struggles. You think your mess disqualifies you from being used by me. But I'm telling you that your mess is exactly what qualifies you. You think your brokenness makes you unusable, but I specialize in turning broken vessels into vessels of honor. You think your past mistakes mean I can't trust you with something important, but I'm about to show you that I want to use your testimony to set captives free. Think about Moses, a murderer who became a deliverer. Think about David, an adulterer who became a man after my own heart. Think about Paul, a persecutor who became a church planter. Think about Peter, a denier who became a rock. Think about Mary Magdalene, a woman with demons who became the first witness of my resurrection. None of them were qualified by human standards, but they were all chosen by divine grace. Your story is not over. Your purpose is not canceled. Your calling is not revoked. The enemy has been trying to convince you that you've disqualified yourself through your choices, but I'm here to tell you that my grace is bigger than your mistakes. My mercy is stronger than your failures, and my love is deeper than your shame. But I need you to understand something that most people miss about the way I work. I don't just forgive you and move on as if nothing happened. I take the very things that were meant to destroy you, and I transform them into the very things that will be used to establish my kingdom on earth. I take your ashes and make them beautiful. I take your mourning and turn it into dancing. I take your shame and turn it into glory. The wounds you've received in life, the abandonment, the abuse, the betrayal, the loss, they weren't random. The enemy meant them for evil, to destroy you, to make you bitter, to make you give up on love, to make you give up on hope, to make you give up on me. But I've been working behind the scenes, taking every wound and turning it into a well of compassion that will flow out of your life to bring healing to others. The addictions you've struggled with, the depression you've battled, the anxiety that has tormented you, the relationships that have broken your heart, all of it has been giving you a depth of understanding, a level of empathy, a genuine compassion that you could never have developed any other way. And there are people out there right now who need to hear your story, who need to know that they're not alone, who need to see that recovery is possible, that healing is available, that hope is real. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Your greatest pain is connected to your greatest purpose. The area where you've experienced the most brokenness is the exact area where I want to use you to bring the most healing. The thing you're most ashamed of is the very thing I want to use to set others free. The struggle that has nearly defeated you is the battlefield where I want to demonstrate my victory through your life. Right now, as you're listening to these words, there are people praying for someone just like you to come into their life. There are people crying out for hope, and your story is the answer to their prayers. There are people on the verge of giving up, and your testimony is what will give them the strength to keep going. There are people trapped in the same bondages you've been delivered from, and your voice is the key that will unlock their prison doors. But the enemy has been whispering lies to keep you silent. He's told you that your story is too messy, too shameful, too broken to be used by God. He's convinced you that people will judge you, reject you, look down on you if they knew the truth about your past. He's made you believe that you need to have it all together before you can help anyone else. But that's not how my kingdom works. In my kingdom, the wounded become the healers, the broken become the restorers, the lost become the finders, the delivered become the deliverers. I don't use people despite their scars. I use people because of their scars. You see, when someone who's never struggled with addiction tries to help an addict, there's a limitation to their effectiveness because they can't truly relate. But when someone who has been delivered from addiction shares their story, there's an immediate connection, an instant credibility, a hope that if God could do it for them, He can do it for me too. When someone who's never experienced deep depression tries to encourage someone in the pit of despair, their words can feel hollow and disconnected. But when someone who has walked through the valley of the shadow of death and emerged into the light shares their journey, it carries a power that can literally save lives. This is why the enemy fought so hard to destroy you. This is why the attacks were so intense, why the struggles were so prolonged, why the pain was so deep. He knew that if you ever discovered your true identity and embraced your divine assignment, you would become a weapon of mass liberation in His kingdom of darkness. But what He meant for evil, I have turned for good. What was designed to end your story has become the very thing that will make your story unstoppable. The scars that you've tried to hide are about to become trophies of my grace that will give hope to the hopeless and strength to the weak. And here's what I need you to prepare for, because what I'm about to show you next will reveal the specific way I want to use your unique combination of gifts, experiences, and scars to impact not just individuals, but entire communities, and possibly even nations. There's something happening in the earth right now that most people can't see with their natural eyes, but I need you to see it with your spiritual eyes. We are living in the most critical time in human history, a time when darkness seems to be advancing on every front, when hopelessness is spreading like a plague, when people are more connected than ever through technology, but more isolated than ever in their souls. Suicide rates are skyrocketing. Depression and anxiety are at epidemic levels. Families are falling apart. Young people are losing their sense of purpose and meaning. Nations are divided. Churches are empty. And people everywhere are crying out for something real, something authentic, something that actually works when life falls apart. This is not an accident. This is not just the natural progression of society. This is a spiritual battle being fought in the heavenlies, and the enemy is pulling out all the stops because he knows his time is short. He's flooding the earth with confusion, despair, division, and deception because he's terrified unlike anything the world has ever seen. Not an army of perfect people, not an army of religious professionals, not an army of those who have it all together. I'm raising up an army of the broken, the wounded, the scarred, the delivered, the restored, people who know what it's like to be at the end of their rope and discover that's exactly where I do my best work. This army won't fight with swords or guns or political movements or social media campaigns. This army will fight with love, with authenticity, with genuine compassion, with real hope, and with testimonies that prove that no one is too far gone, no situation is too hopeless, and no heart is too broken for my love to heal. And you, my beloved child, you are not just a casualty of spiritual warfare. You are a soldier in this end times army. Every battle you've fought, every victory you've won, every scar you carry has been preparing you for this moment, for this assignment, for this destiny that's been written in the stars since before the foundation of the world. The reason you felt so different, so misunderstood, so like you don't quite fit in anywhere, is because you weren't created to fit in. You were created to stand out. You weren't created to blend in with the crowd. You were created to be a light in the darkness. You weren't created to follow the path everyone else is walking. You were created to blaze a new trail that others can follow. But here's what I need you to understand about this calling, this assignment, this destiny that's on your life. It's not going to look like what you expect. It's not going to unfold according to your timeline. It's not going to happen in the way you've planned or imagined. It's going to be bigger than your wildest dreams and different from your specific expectations. You've been praying for me to open doors, but I'm about to remove walls. You've been asking me to give you opportunities, but I'm about to give you platforms. You've been hoping for incremental change, but I'm about to bring exponential breakthrough. You've been expecting natural progression, but I'm about to demonstrate supernatural acceleration. The gifts that have been lying dormant in your life are about to be activated. The dreams that have been buried under disappointment are about to be resurrected. The visions that you thought were just wishful thinking are about to become your reality. The calling that you've doubted and questioned and almost given up on is about to manifest in ways that will leave you breathless. But I need to prepare you for something, and this is crucial. When I begin to elevate you, when I begin to expand your influence, when I begin to use your story to impact thousands and potentially millions of lives, the enemy is going to intensify his attacks. He's going to try to make you doubt your worthiness, question your calling, and focus on your inadequacies instead of my sufficiency. He's going to whisper lies like, "Who do you think you are?" And "What makes you think you're qualified for this?" And people are going to find out you're a fraud. He's going to remind you of every mistake you've ever made, every time you've fallen short, every reason why you don't deserve to be used by God in a significant way. But I need you to remember what I'm telling you right now. Your qualification doesn't come from your perfection, it comes from my selection. Your authority doesn't come from your righteousness. It comes from my righteousness that has been credited to your account. Your power doesn't come from your strength. It comes from my strength that is made perfect in your weakness. The same Spirit that raised me from the dead lives in you. The same power that spoke the universe into existence flows through your veins. The same love that conquered hell and death beats in your heart. You are not just human. You are human filled with divine DNA, created in my image, equipped with supernatural ability, and commissioned with heavenly authority. And here's what's going to absolutely amaze you. When you step into this calling, when you embrace this destiny, when you allow me to use your story to transform other lives, you're going to discover that this was always what you were searching for. This sense of purpose, this feeling of significance, this deep satisfaction that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you were created to do. All those years you spent trying to find fulfillment in careers, relationships, achievements, possessions, experiences, you were looking in all the wrong places because what your soul was truly craving was the joy that comes from being used by me to advance my kingdom on earth. But here's where it gets even more incredible. And this is what I need you to brace yourself for. The impact you're going to have is not going to be limited to your generation. What I'm about to do through your life is going to create a ripple effect that will reach into eternity. The people you influence will influence others. Who will influence others? Who will influence others? Creating a chain reaction of transformation that will literally reshape the spiritual landscape of the earth. Your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren are going to walk in a level of blessing and favor that was unlocked by your obedience to this calling. Your willingness to be vulnerable with your story, to step out of your comfort zone, to trust me with your reputation and your future, is going to create a generational shift that breaks curses and establishes blessings for centuries to come. But before I can fully activate this destiny in your life, there's something I need to address, something that's been holding you back, something that you've been avoiding because it requires a level of surrender that feels terrifying. The thing that's been holding you back is not what you think it, Island. It's not your past. It's not your mistakes. It's not your lack of education or resources or connections. What's been holding you back is your need to understand everything before you obey. Your desire to see the whole staircase before you take the first step. Your insistence on having all the details figured out before you say yes to my calling on your life. You've been waiting for me to show you the complete blueprint, to reveal the entire plan, to guarantee the outcome before you're willing to move forward. But that's not how faith works. That's not how I operate. That's not how breakthrough happens. If you could see the whole path, you wouldn't need faith. If you could understand all my ways, you would be God instead of trusting God. I'm calling you to a level of surrender that goes beyond anything you've ever experienced before. I'm calling you to trust me with your reputation, your finances, your relationships, your future, your children's future, everything that matters to you. I'm calling you to let go of your need to control outcomes and trust me to orchestrate results that are far beyond what you could orchestrate on your own. This is where most people stop. This is where they turn back. This is where they choose the familiar pain of staying where they are over the uncertain joy of stepping into where I'm calling them to go. They want the blessing, but they don't want the surrender. They want the breakthrough, but they don't want the letting go. They want the testimony, but they don't want the test. But you're not most people. You're reading this, listening to this, absorbing these words, because my spirit is calling out to your spirit, drawing you into a place of total abandonment to my will, complete trust in my character, and absolute faith in my ability to do exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask or think. Let me tell you about Abraham. I called him to leave everything familiar, his country, his family, his security, and go to a land that I would show him. Notice I didn't show him the land first, and then ask him to go. I asked him to go, and I promised to show him the land along the way. He had to take the first step in faith before he could see the second step clearly. When he obeyed, when he stepped out, not knowing where he was going but knowing who was leading him, I made him the father of many nations. His obedience didn't just affect his life, it affected all of human history. Every person who has ever been born again is a spiritual descendant of Abraham's act of faith. That's the kind of impact I want to have through your life, but it requires the same kind of faith Abraham demonstrated. It requires you to say yes to my calling, even when you can't see how it's going to work out. It requires you to step forward, even when the path is unclear. It requires you to trust my character, even when you can't understand my methods. Here's what I need you to know about this surrender I'm asking of you. It's not a one-time decision. It's a daily choice. Every day, you're going to wake up and have the opportunity to trust me, or trust yourself, to walk by faith, or walk by sight, to follow my voice, or follow your fears. Some days it's going to feel like you're walking on water. Supernatural peace flooding your heart as you watch me do the impossible in your circumstances. Other days it's going to feel like you're sinking. Doubt and fear threatening to overwhelm your faith as you face obstacles that seem insurmountable. But on both kinds of days, I'll be there, reaching out my hand to steady you, speaking words of encouragement over your life, reminding you that you're not walking this path alone. The enemy is going to try to convince you that surrender means losing control. But I'm telling you that surrender is how you gain access to my control over your circumstances. The enemy will whisper that letting go means everything will fall apart. But I'm showing you that letting go is how everything falls into place according to my perfect plan. You've been trying to hold your life together with your own strength, your own wisdom, your own resources, and it's exhausting you. You've been carrying burdens that were never meant to be yours, fighting battles that I've already won, trying to open doors that I've been waiting to open for you if you'll just step back and let me be God in your situation. But here's the beautiful thing about surrender. It's not about giving up. It's about giving over. It's not about becoming passive. It's about partnering with the Almighty. It's not about losing yourself. It's about finding yourself in me, discovering who you really are when you're not trying to be someone you're not. When you truly surrender, something miraculous happens. The striving stops. The anxiety diminishes. The pressure lifts. You begin to operate from rest instead of stress, from confidence instead of insecurity, from love instead of fear. You start making decisions based on my voice instead of people's opinions, my promises instead of circumstances, my character instead of your feelings. And this is when the real miracles begin to happen. This is when doors start opening that no man can shut. This is when opportunities begin presenting themselves that you never could have created through networking or manipulation. This is when favor begins showing up in your life that you never could have earned through performance or politics. People start taking notice of something different about you. They can't quite put their finger on it, but there's a peace about you in the midst of chaos, a joy in the face of difficulty, a confidence that doesn't make sense given your circumstances. They want what you have, and you get to tell them it's not something you achieved, it's someone you received. This is how revival starts. Not with programs or events or marketing campaigns, but with individuals who have encountered my love so deeply, experienced my power so dramatically, and surrendered to my will so completely that they become walking advertisements for the reality of my kingdom on earth. But I need to prepare you for what's about to happen when you make this complete surrender, because the enemy is not going to sit back and watch you walk into your destiny without a fight. He's going to pull out weapons he's never used against you before, launch attacks from directions you never expected, and try to convince you that you've made a terrible mistake by trusting me so completely. This is the testing that comes before the testimony, the pressure that creates the diamond, the wilderness that precedes the promised land. And how you respond to these final attacks will determine not just your own future, but the future of everyone whose life you're destined to touch. When you step into complete surrender, when you truly say, "Not my will, but yours be done," you're going to experience what I call the final exam. This is the testing that comes just before the breakthrough, the storm that precedes the calm, the darkness that comes before the dawn. And I need you to understand this so you don't get discouraged when it happens, so you don't think you've made a mistake, so you don't turn back when you're actually closer to your destiny than you've ever been before. The enemy knows that once you fully embrace your calling, once you step boldly into your purpose, once you begin operating in the fullness of who I created you to be, his ability to torment you will be severely limited. So he's going to throw everything he has at you in these final moments before your breakthrough. He's going to attack your finances, your health, your relationships, your reputation, anything he can use to make you doubt my faithfulness and abandon the path I've set before you. But here's what the enemy doesn't understand about my children who have learned to walk in complete surrender. The very attacks he sends to defeat them become the launching pad for their greatest victories. The obstacles he places in their path become stepping stones to higher ground. The weapons he forms against them not only fail to prosper, they actually work together for their good, because nothing can touch a life that's hidden in me without first passing through my loving hands. You see, this final testing is not punishment. It's preparation. It's not meant to harm you. It's meant to strengthen you for what's coming. Just like a butterfly has to struggle to break out of its cocoon in order to develop the strength it needs to fly, you have to press through this final resistance to develop the spiritual muscles you'll need to carry the weight of the anointing I'm about to place on your life. During this season, you're going to be tempted to look at your circumstances instead of looking at me. You're going to be tempted to listen to the voice of fear instead of the voice of faith. You're going to be tempted to make decisions based on what you can see with your natural eyes instead of what I've shown you with your spiritual eyes. But this is exactly where your surrender gets tested. This is where you find out if you really meant it when you said you trusted me. This is where you discover whether your faith is just a Sunday morning confession or a Monday through Saturday lifestyle. This is where the rubber meets the road, where theory becomes reality, where declaration becomes demonstration. I want you to remember David when he was facing Goliath. Everyone around him saw a giant that was too big to fight, but David saw a giant that was too big to miss. Everyone else focused on the size of the problem, but David focused on the size of his God. Everyone else saw why it couldn't be done, but David saw why it had to be done. The giant you're facing right now, whether it's financial pressure, relational conflict, health challenges, or spiritual warfare, is not there to defeat you. It's there to reveal the giant killer that's been living inside you all along. It's there to demonstrate that the same spirit that raised me from the dead is more than capable of handling whatever you're up against. But here's what you have to understand about this final battle. You're not going to win it through human effort, natural ability, or positive thinking. You're going to win it through worship in the midst of warfare, through praise in the midst of pressure, through declaring my promises when everything around you is screaming that those promises aren't true. This is where most people give up. They get within inches of their breakthrough and decide it's too hard, the cost is too high, the battle is too intense. They trade their destiny for temporary relief, their purpose for momentary comfort, their calling for familiar safety. But you're not going to be one of those people, because you understand that what you're going through right now is not your end, it's your beginning. Every prophet, every apostle, every person I've used to impact the world has had to go through this final testing. Moses had to face Pharaoh's resistance before he could lead my people to freedom. Joshua had to march around Jericho 7 times before the walls came down. Gideon had to reduce his army to 300 men before I gave him victory over thousands. Paul had to endure shipwrecks, beatings, and imprisonment before his ministry reached the known world. And you, my beloved child, you have to press through this final resistance before you step into the fullness of everything I have prepared for you. But here's what I need you to know that will give you supernatural strength for this final push. You're not going through this testing to see if you'll make it. You're going through it to prove that you already have made it. The victory is already won. The battle is already over. The enemy is already defeated. What you're experiencing right now is not the fight for your future. It's the death rattle of everything that's been holding your future hostage. You're not fighting for victory. You're fighting from victory. You're not trying to overcome. You're enforcing what I've already overcome. This perspective changes everything. When you understand that you're not fighting to win, but celebrating a victory that's already been secured, when you realize that you're not trying to convince me to bless you, but simply stepping into blessings that have already been prepared, when you grasp that you're not earning your breakthrough, but simply receiving what's already been purchased with my blood, everything shifts. The pressure that felt overwhelming becomes a reminder that something big is about to break open in your life. The resistance that seemed insurmountable becomes evidence that you're on the right path, and the enemy is scared of what's about to happen through you. The attacks that felt personal become confirmation that you're carrying something so powerful, so threatening to the kingdom of darkness, that hell itself is in an uproar over your destiny. And in the midst of this final testing, something beautiful begins to happen in your heart. You stop being moved by circumstances and start being moved by my spirit. You stop being driven by fear and start being led by faith. You stop trying to figure everything out and start trusting me to work everything together for your good. This is the place where miracles happen, where the impossible becomes inevitable, where ordinary people become extraordinary vessels for my glory. This is the place where your natural abilities get supernatural enhancement, where your human limitations get divine reinforcement, where your finite resources get infinite will reveal the exact moment when everything changes, when the testing turns into testimony, when the pressure produces the breakthrough, and when your life becomes a demonstration of my power that impacts not just you, not just your family, but generations yet to be born. There comes a moment in every person's journey with me when everything shifts, when the testing gives way to triumph, when the wilderness experience transforms into a promised land reality. This moment doesn't always come when you expect it. It doesn't always look like what you imagined. But when it arrives, you'll know without a shadow of a doubt that your life will never be the same again. For some, this moment comes in the middle of the night during a season of deep prayer and surrender. For others, it happens in the midst of their greatest crisis, when they're forced to choose between faith and fear. For many, it occurs during an ordinary day, when my voice breaks through their circumstances with such clarity and power that everything else fades into the background. But regardless of when or how this moment arrives, it's always characterized by the same thing: a supernatural encounter with my presence that changes your identity at the deepest level. Not just what you believe about yourself, not just what you hope might be true, but a revelation of who you actually are in my eyes. That becomes more real to you than anything you've ever experienced in the natural realm. When this moment hits your life, you won't be the same person who started this journey. The insecurity that used to torment you will be replaced with unshakable confidence in my love for you. The fear that used to paralyze you will be swallowed up by faith in my faithfulness. The shame that used to define you will be obliterated by the glory of my grace covering every area of your life. You'll look back at the person you used to be and barely recognize them. The things that used to worry you will seem insignificant. The people whose approval you used to crave will pale in comparison to my acceptance of you. The dreams you used to think were impossible will feel inevitable, because you'll finally understand that nothing is impossible when I'm the one orchestrating the outcome. But here's what makes this transformation so powerful, so lasting, so revolutionary. It doesn't just change how you see yourself, it changes how you see everyone else. The judgmental spirit that used to criticize others gets replaced with a compassionate heart that sees their potential. The competitive nature that used to compare and contrast gets transformed into a collaborative spirit that celebrates others' success. The bitter root that used to harbor resentment gets uprooted and replaced with a forgiving heart that extends the same mercy to others that I've extended to you. This is when you truly understand what it means to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is when you experience what it's like to have the mind of Christ operating through your thoughts, your decisions, your responses to life's challenges. This is when you discover what it feels like to walk in the Spirit instead of walking in the flesh. And in this place of transformation, something extraordinary begins to happen in your relationships, your finances, your health, your opportunities. Every area of your life begins to align with my will for you. Not because you're trying harder or performing better, but because you're finally allowing me to be Lord of every aspect of your existence. The people who used to drain your energy start falling away, and new relationships begin to form with those who sharpen you and support your calling. The financial struggles that used to keep you awake at night start resolving in ways you never could have orchestrated. The health issues that seemed permanent start improving as supernatural healing begins to flow through your body. The doors that used to be closed start swinging wide open as favor begins to precede you wherever you go. But what's most amazing about this season is not what changes around you, it's what changes within you. You begin to operate from a place of rest instead of striving, peace instead of panic, joy instead of anxiety. You start making decisions from a place of wisdom instead of emotion, faith instead of fear, love instead of self-protection. People around you begin to notice something different about you, something they can't quite explain or understand. There's a lightness about you that wasn't there before. A confidence that doesn't come from arrogance, but from knowing who you are and whose you are. There's a peace about you that doesn't make sense given what you've been through, and a joy that bubbles up from such a deep place that external circumstances can't touch it. This is when you realize that everything you've been through, every pain you've endured, every disappointment you've faced, every mountain you've had to climb has been preparing you for this moment. Not just for your own transformation, but for the transformation you're going to bring to others through your life, your story, your ministry, your calling. Because now that you've experienced this level of breakthrough, now that you've walked through the fire and come out refined instead of burned, now that you've faced your giants and watched them fall, you have something to offer the world that can't be learned in books or seminars or conferences. You have the authority that comes from having been where people are and knowing the way out. This is when your ministry truly begins. Not ministry in the sense of standing behind a pulpit or leading a church, but ministry in the truest sense of the word, serving others by allowing my love to flow through you to touch the places in their hearts that only someone who's walked a similar path can reach. Your testimony becomes a weapon against the lies the enemy is telling others. Your breakthrough becomes proof that their breakthrough is possible. Your victory becomes hope for their victory. Your transformation becomes a catalyst for their transformation. And this is where the exponential impact begins, where one life touching another life creates a ripple effect that spreads far beyond what you could ever track or measure. The person you encourage today encourages someone else tomorrow. The hope you give to one individual gets passed on to their family, their friends, their community. The Breakthrough You model becomes the inspiration for countless others to press through their own testing into their own testimony. But I need to prepare you for something that's about to happen as you step into this new level of impact and influence. Because with greater anointing comes greater responsibility, and with increased platform comes intensified spiritual warfare of a different kind. When I elevate you to a new level of influence and impact, the enemy's strategy against you completely changes. He's no longer trying to destroy you with the same old temptations, the same predictable attacks, the same obvious weapons he used when you were just fighting for your own survival. Now that you're becoming a threat to his kingdom, now that your life is beginning to set others free, now that your testimony is dismantling his lies on a broader scale, he has to get more sophisticated, more subtle, more strategic in his approach. This new level of warfare doesn't come against your obvious weaknesses. It comes against your strengths. It doesn't attack the areas where you're already alert and prepared. It targets the blind spots you didn't even know you had. It doesn't try to make you fall into gross sin. It tries to make you fall into religious pride, spiritual deception, or ministerial burnout. The enemy knows that if he can get you to become prideful about your transformation, judgmental toward those who haven't experienced breakthrough yet, or so focused on your ministry that you neglect your relationship with me, he can neutralize your effectiveness without anyone even realizing what's happened. He can take someone who is powerfully used by God and turn them into a religious monument instead of a living vessel. This is why so many people who start strong in their faith end up shipwrecked in their later years. This is why some of the most anointed ministers become the most damaged individuals. This is why churches split, ministries fail, and movements that started in my spirit end up operating in human flesh. They didn't understand that success in the kingdom requires a different kind of vigilance than struggle in the wilderness. But I don't want that to be your story. I don't want you to become a cautionary tale of someone who started well but didn't finish strong. I don't want your ministry to become more important to you than your relationship with me. I don't want your calling to become an idol that replaces your communion with me. So let me teach you how to navigate this elevated level of spiritual warfare. How to walk in increasing influence without losing your intimacy with me. How to impact more lives without compromising your own spiritual life. How to handle promotion without allowing pride to poison your heart. First, you must never forget where you came from. The moment you start thinking you've arrived, that you've got it all figured out, that you're somehow different from or better than the people you're ministering to, you've opened a door for the enemy to begin working deception in your life. You must remember that apart from my grace, you would still be in the same pit I pulled you out of. Your breakthrough is not a testimony to your goodness. It's a testimony to my goodness working in your life. Second, you must guard your private life with your public ministry. The enemy will try to convince you that since you're being used by me to help others, you can afford to neglect your own spiritual disciplines, your own time in my presence, your own need for ongoing transformation. But the truth is, the more I use you publicly, the more you need me privately. The more you pour out to others, the more you need to be filled up by me. The more you give away, the more you need to receive from the source of all spiritual life. Third, you must stay submitted to spiritual authority and accountable to mature believers who have your permission to speak truth into your life, even when that truth is difficult to hear. Pride will whisper that you've outgrown the need for input from others, that your level of anointing exempts you from having to answer to anyone, that your success proves you can trust your own judgment in all situations. But humility knows that the higher you go, the more dangerous a fall becomes, and the more you need people around you who love you enough to tell you what you need to hear instead of what you want to hear. Fourth, you must never allow the needs of others to become more important to you than your need for me. There will always be more people to help, more problems to solve, more crises to address, more opportunities to make a difference. If you're not careful, the very compassion I've given you for others can become a trap that pulls you away from the source of that compassion. You must learn to say no to good things in order to say yes to God things. You must protect your time with me as fiercely as you protect your time with others. Fifth, you must remember that your identity is not found in your ministry. Your ministry flows from your identity. You are not what you do. You are who you are in me. And what you do is simply an expression of that identity. The moment your sense of worth becomes tied to your level of impact, the size of your platform, or the response you get from others, you've created an idol that will eventually destroy both you and your ministry. As you learn to navigate these elevated levels of spiritual warfare, you'll discover that the attacks become more subtle, but also more defeatable when you know what to look for. You'll develop spiritual discernment that allows you to recognize the enemy's schemes before they take root in your heart. You'll cultivate spiritual disciplines that keep you connected to the source of your strength. You'll surround yourself with people who can help you stay grounded and accountable. And as you do this, something beautiful happens. Your ministry doesn't just survive the increased warfare, it thrives because of it. Every attack that fails to bring you down makes you stronger, wiser, more effective in helping others recognize and overcome similar attacks in their own lives. Every temptation you overcome in private becomes a weapon you can use to help others overcome temptation in their own lives. Every strategy the enemy uses against you that fails becomes intelligence you can share with other believers who are facing similar battles. This is how veterans in the faith are created. Not by avoiding spiritual warfare, but by learning to fight effectively at every level. Not by being exempt from temptation, but by developing the character and wisdom to resist temptation successfully. Not by having an easy path, but by learning to trust me completely through every twist and turn of a challenging path. And now, as you begin to understand these deeper principles of spiritual warfare and kingdom living, I want to reveal to you something that will absolutely transform how you see your role in what I'm doing on the earth right now. Because you're not just being prepared for personal breakthrough, you're being prepared to be part of something so significant, so historical, so eternal, that when you fully grasp it, you'll never again question whether your life matters or whether your story has purpose. What I'm about to reveal to you will forever change how you see this moment in history, how you understand your place in my eternal plan, and why everything you've been through has been preparing you for such a time as this. You are not living in ordinary times. You are not experiencing random events. You are not facing coincidental challenges. You are part of the most significant spiritual movement that has ever taken place on earth since my resurrection. Right now, at this very moment, there are more people alive on earth than have ever existed in all of human history combined. There are more nations, more languages, more cultures, more opportunities to spread my gospel than at any other time since I walked on this planet. Technology has connected the world in ways that make it possible for one person's testimony to reach millions of people in a matter of hours. The harvest is truly ripe, but the laborers are few. But here's what most people don't understand about this moment. The enemy also knows this is his final opportunity to deceive as many people as possible before my return. He knows that time is running out, that his kingdom is collapsing, that his defeat is imminent. So he's pouring every resource, every strategy, every weapon in his arsenal into this final assault against the souls of men and women who are desperately searching for truth, for hope, for meaning, for purpose. This is why the world seems to be spinning out of control. This is why depression and anxiety are at epidemic levels. This is why families are being destroyed, why churches are compromising truth, why nations are in chaos, why young people are losing hope. The enemy is pulling out all the stops because he knows his time is short, and he's determined to take as many people to hell with him as possible. But here's what the enemy didn't count on. I'm raising up an army of believers who have been refined by fire, tested by trials, and proven faithful through their darkest seasons. These are not fair-weather Christians who only follow me when life is easy. These are not Sunday morning believers who compartmentalize their faith. These are battle-tested warriors who have walked through hell and emerged with unshakable faith, unbreakable joy, and unstoppable love. You, my beloved child, are part of this end-times army. Every struggle you've survived, every battle you've won, every scar you carry, every victory you've experienced has been preparing you for this moment in history, when I need people who know beyond any shadow of doubt that I am faithful, that my love never fails, that my power is unlimited, and that my promises are true. The reason your testimony is so powerful is because it comes from someone who has been to the bottom and discovered that even there, my love was sufficient. The reason your faith is so contagious is because it's been tested in the furnace of affliction and proven genuine. The reason your hope is so compelling is because it's not based on circumstances, but on character. Not on what you can see, but on who you know. This is the kind of faith that changes the world. This is the kind of testimony that sets captives free. This is the kind of love that conquers every form of darkness. And right now, I'm multiplying this anointing on the lives of people just like you, all around the globe, creating a network of light that's going to push back the darkness and bring in the greatest harvest of souls in human history. But your role in this end times revival is not just about the people you're going to reach directly. It's about the ripple effect your life is going to create, the chain reaction your obedience is going to set in motion, the generational impact your faithfulness is going to produce. When you step fully into your calling, when you embrace completely your identity as my chosen vessel, when you allow my love to flow through you without reservation or restriction, you're not just changing your own life. You're changing the eternal trajectory of countless others. The person you lead to me will lead others to me, who will lead others to me, creating an exponential multiplication that reaches far beyond what you could ever see or track in your lifetime. The family member you refuse to give up on will become the catalyst for transformation in their entire family line. The coworker you consistently show my love to will carry that love home to their spouse and children. The neighbor you serve selflessly will begin to understand what authentic Christianity looks like and will start seeking the source of your joy. This is how revivals spread. Not through mass events or celebrity preachers, but through ordinary people who have encountered my love so deeply that they can't help but share it with everyone they meet. This is how communities are transformed, not through political movements or social programs, but through individuals whose lives have been so radically changed by my grace that they become living advertisements for the reality of my kingdom. And this is happening right now, all around the world, as people just like you are stepping out of their comfort zones, sharing their stories, living authentically, loving unconditionally, and trusting me to do through their lives what only I can do. You're not alone in this calling. You're part of a massive movement of my spirit that's touching every continent, every culture, every socioeconomic level. Understand about the urgency of this moment. Windows of opportunity like this don't stay open forever. There are seasons when my spirit is moving in unusual ways, when hearts are more open than usual to spiritual truth, when circumstances align to create unprecedented opportunities for the gospel to advance. We are living in one of those seasons right now, but it requires people who are willing to act on what I'm showing them instead of just thinking about it, planning for it, or waiting for a more convenient time. The enemy is working overtime to distract you, discourage you, delay you, and divert you from stepping into the fullness of what I have for you. He knows that if you fully embrace your calling, if you completely surrender to my will, if you totally abandon yourself to my purposes, you will become a weapon of mass destruction against his kingdom of darkness. So he's going to keep offering you reasons to wait, excuses to delay, alternatives to consider, obstacles to overcome. But I need you to know that every day you delay is another day that someone who needs to hear your story doesn't hear it. Every week you wait is another week that someone who needs to experience my love through your life doesn't experience it. Every month you postpone stepping into your calling is another month that families, communities, and perhaps even nations remain in darkness that could be penetrated by the light I want to shine through your life. This is not meant to create pressure or guilt. It's meant to help you understand the significance of the moment we're living in and the importance of your response to what I'm calling you to do. You matter more than you realize. Your story is more powerful than you understand. Your life has more potential impact than you can imagine. And now, as you begin to grasp the magnitude of what I'm asking you to be part of, I want to show you specifically what this is going to look like in your life, how I'm going to use your unique gifts and experiences to touch the exact people who need what you have to offer, and why your particular combination of talents, struggles, and victories makes you irreplaceable in my plan for this generation. There has never been anyone exactly like you in the history of the world, and there will never be anyone exactly like you again. Your fingerprints are unique. Your DNA is one of a kind. Your voice is distinctive. Your perspective is singular. But what makes you truly irreplaceable is not just your physical characteristics. It's the unique combination of your gifts, your experiences, your struggles, your victories, your personality, your passions, and your calling that creates a ministry expression that only you can fulfill. I didn't create you as a copy of someone else. I didn't design you to be a cheaper version of another person's calling. I didn't form you in your mother's womb to be a backup plan in case someone else failed to fulfill their purpose. I created you as an original masterpiece, specifically designed to reach people that no one else can reach in ways that no one else can reach them. The people I'm calling you to impact are not randomly assigned to your life. They are strategically connected to your story, your struggles, your breakthroughs, your personality, your gifts, and your calling. There are individuals walking this earth right now who will only be reached by someone who has walked your exact path, faced your specific challenges, overcome your particular obstacles, and learned the lessons you've learned along the way. Your struggles with addiction have prepared you to speak life into someone who is battling the same demons you've conquered. Your battle with depression has equipped you with the compassion and understanding needed to pull someone else out of the pit of despair. Your experience with betrayal has given you the wisdom to help someone else navigate relationship wounds and learn to trust again. Your financial difficulties have taught you principles about faith and provision that someone else desperately needs to hear. But it's not just your struggles that qualify you. It's also your gifts, your talents, your natural abilities that I've been shaping and developing throughout your entire life. That creativity you've always had is not just for your own enjoyment. It's a tool I want to use to communicate my love in ways that traditional ministry could never accomplish. That business acumen you've developed is not just for building wealth. It's for creating platforms and resources that advance my kingdom on earth. That ability to connect with people that comes so naturally to you is not just for building your own network. It's for building bridges between my heart and the hearts of people who need to know how much I love them. Even the things about yourself that you've considered weaknesses, flaws, or limitations are part of my perfect design for your life. Your sensitivity, which you've sometimes seen as a liability, is actually a superpower that allows you to feel what others are feeling and respond with the exact kind of love they need. Your intensity, which has sometimes gotten you in trouble, is actually the fire I'm going to use to ignite passion in the hearts of people who have grown cold toward me. Your unconventional way of thinking, which has sometimes made you feel like an outsider, is actually the key to reaching people who could never be reached through conventional means. I have been preparing you for this calling your entire life, even when you didn't know I existed, even when you were running from me, even when you were making choices that seemed to be taking you away from my purposes. Every job you've had, every relationship you've been in, every place you've lived, every experience you've had has been adding tools to your toolbox, wisdom to your arsenal, compassion to your heart, and authority to your voice. The reason certain things have always bothered you about the way people treat each other is because I've placed my heart of justice inside your heart. The reason you've always been drawn to help the underdog, to defend the defenseless, to speak up for those who have no voice, is because that's part of the calling I've placed on your life. The reason you've never been satisfied with superficial relationships, shallow conversations, or meaningless activities is because I've created you for deep, authentic, transformational interactions with the people I'm sending into your path. Your calling is not going to look like anyone else's calling because you're not anyone else. You're you. And I need you to be fully, completely, authentically you as you step into what I have for you. The world doesn't need another copy of someone else's ministry. The world needs the original expression of my love that can only flow through your unique personality, gifts, experiences, and calling. This is why comparison is so destructive to people walking in their calling. When you compare your ministry to someone else's ministry, your gifts to someone else's gifts, your level of impact to someone else's level of impact, you're not just being insecure. You're actually being ungrateful for the way I've specifically designed you and rebellious against the unique assignment I've given you. I don't want you to be the next Billy Graham, Mother Teresa, or anyone else you admire. I want you to be the first you, the only you, the irreplaceable you that I created to accomplish something that no one else in history could accomplish. Your calling is not less important because it's different. Your ministry is not less valuable because it doesn't look like someone else's ministry. Your impact is not less significant because it's not as visible or measurable as someone else's impact. In my kingdom, success is not determined by the size of your platform, but by the faithfulness of your obedience. Impact is not measured by the number of people you reach, but by the depth of transformation you facilitate in the lives you touch. Significance is not calculated by the recognition you receive, but by the love you demonstrate to those I've entrusted to your care. And here's what's going to absolutely amaze you as you step into this calling. You're going to discover that the very things about yourself you've tried to hide, change, or overcome are actually the very things I want to use most powerfully. Your scars will become sources of healing for others. Your struggles will become strengths that help others overcome. Your mess will become your message. Your tests will become your testimony. Your pain will become your platform. Your wounds will become your weapons against the kingdom of darkness. But as you embrace this truth about your unique design and irreplaceable calling, I need to prepare you for the supernatural acceleration that's about to take place in your life. Because once you stop trying to be someone else and start embracing who I created you to be, once you stop apologizing for your uniqueness and start celebrating your distinctiveness, once you stop hiding your story and start sharing your testimony, everything is going to begin moving at a pace that will leave you breathless. The doors that have been closed for years will suddenly swing wide open. The opportunities you've been praying for will begin presenting themselves faster than you can respond to them. The resources you've needed will start flowing from unexpected sources. The connections that will advance your calling will begin forming in supernatural ways. But this acceleration will require a level of trust, surrender, and obedience that you've never experienced before. Because I'm not just going to change your circumstances, I'm going to completely restructure your life around the calling I've placed on you, And that kind of transformation requires a willingness to let go of everything that's not aligned with my purposes for your future. When I begin to accelerate your calling, when I start moving you from preparation into manifestation, when I shift you from getting ready to stepping into your destiny, the pace of change is going to be unlike anything you've ever experienced before. What used to take months is going to happen in weeks. What used to take years is going to happen in months. Connections that would normally take decades to develop are going to form in days. Opportunities that seemed impossible are going to become inevitable. But this supernatural acceleration comes with a price that many people are not prepared to pay. You're going to have to let go of everything in your life that's not aligned with my purposes for your future. The relationships that have been draining your energy, the activities that have been wasting your time, the commitments that have been distracting you from your calling, the habits that have been hindering your growth, all of it is going to have to go. This is not punishment. This is preparation. This is not loss. This is gain. This is not ending. This is beginning. But it requires a level of trust that goes beyond anything you've ever experienced, because I'm going to ask you to release things that feel secure, comfortable, and familiar in order to make room for things that are uncertain, uncomfortable, and unfamiliar. I'm going to restructure your friendships, because the people who were appropriate for who you used to be may not be appropriate for who you're becoming. Some of the people who have been closest to you may not understand the changes taking place in your life, may not support the direction you're heading, may even try to pull you back into patterns and relationships that no longer serve my purposes for your life. I'm going to restructure your finances, because the way you've been managing money may not be adequate for the level of stewardship I'm about to entrust to you. The resources that are about to flow through your life are not just for your personal blessing. They're for advancing my kingdom, supporting my work, and funding the vision I've placed in your heart. This requires a completely different relationship with money than most people have. I'm going to restructure your schedule, because the way you've been spending your time may not be compatible with the demands of your calling. The casual approach to time management that works when you're just living for yourself doesn't work when you're carrying responsibility for the spiritual welfare of others. Every hour becomes precious. Every day becomes significant. Every week becomes critical to the advancement of what I'm doing through your life. I'm going to restructure your priorities, because the things that seemed important when you were focused on your own success may become irrelevant when you're focused on my kingdom. The achievements that used to motivate you, the recognition that used to drive you, the possessions that used to define you, all of it is going to fade into the background as you discover the deep satisfaction that comes from being used by me to transform lives, communities, and cultures. I'm going to restructure your mindset, because the way you've been thinking about success, significance, and satisfaction is going to have to change to accommodate the new reality I'm creating in your life. You're going to have to learn to measure progress differently, define victory differently, and evaluate impact differently. What the world calls failure, you may discover is actually success in my kingdom. What the world calls success, you may realize, is actually failure from an eternal perspective. But here's what you need to understand about this restructuring process. It's not something I'm doing to you. It's something I'm doing with you and through you. You're not a passive victim of divine reorganization. You're an active participant in supernatural transformation. Every change I make in your life is going to be the result of choices you make to trust me, obey me, and follow me, even when the path doesn't make sense to your natural mind. This means there are going to be moments when I ask you to say no to opportunities that look good on paper but aren't part of my plan for your life. There are going to be times when I lead you to make decisions that seem financially unwise but are spiritually necessary. There are going to be seasons when I call you to invest your time, energy, and resources in ways that don't produce immediate results but create eternal impact. The people around you may not understand these choices. They may question your judgment, challenge your decisions, and even accuse you of being irresponsible or unrealistic. But you're going to have to learn to be more concerned with my approval than their approval, more focused on my opinion than their opinion, more committed to my timeline than their timeline. This is where many people stop. This is where they decide the cost is too high, the changes are too dramatic, the risk is too great. They want the blessing, but they don't want the restructuring. They want the breakthrough, but they don't want the breaking. They want the promotion, but they don't want the preparation. They want the testimony, but they don't want the testing. But you're not going to be one of those people, because you understand that what I'm offering you is not just a better version of your current life, it's a completely different life, a supernatural life, an eternal life that begins now and continues forever. You understand that the temporary discomfort of change is nothing compared to the eternal significance of stepping into your destiny. And as you embrace this restructuring process, as you allow me to rearrange every aspect of your existence around my purposes for your life, something incredible begins to happen. You start to feel more like yourself than you've ever felt before. You start to experience a level of fulfillment that you never knew was possible. You start to operate with a confidence and authority that doesn't come from human accomplishment, but from divine appointment. The work doesn't feel like work anymore. It feels like worship. The challenges don't feel overwhelming anymore. They feel like opportunities to see my power demonstrated. The responsibility doesn't feel burdensome anymore. It feels like privilege. The pressure doesn't feel crushing anymore. It feels like the weight of glory that's being worked in you and through you. This is what it means to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is what it feels like to have your life hidden with Christ in God. This is what it looks like to be conformed to the image of the Son. This is the abundant life, the victorious life, the supernatural life that I came to give you. But now, as you stand on the threshold of this complete transformation, as you prepare to step into the fullness of everything I have prepared for you, as you get ready to embrace the calling that's been written in your DNA since before the foundation of the world, there's one final question I need to ask you. One last decision you need to make. One ultimate choice that will determine not just your own future, but the future of everyone whose life you're destined to touch. After everything I've revealed to you, after all the truth I've spoken over your life, after showing you the magnitude of what's at stake and the significance of your calling, after unveiling the supernatural transformation that awaits you and the eternal impact you're designed to have, there's only one question left that matters. Will you say yes? Not yes to a religion, not yes to a set of rules, not yes to human expectations or religious traditions. Will you say yes to me? Will you say yes to the adventure I'm inviting you on? Will you say yes to the destiny I've written in the stars with your name on it? Will you say yes to becoming everything I created you to be and doing everything I've called you to do? This is not a casual decision. This is not a temporary commitment. This is not a part-time calling. This is me asking you to give me your entire life, your past, your present, your future, your dreams, your fears, your successes, your failures, your relationships, your resources, your time, your energy, your reputation, your comfort, your security, everything. I'm asking you to trust me with the most precious things in your life, to follow me even when you can't see where I'm leading, to obey me even when it doesn't make sense to your natural mind, to love others even when they don't love you back, to forgive even when you've been deeply wounded, to give even when you don't have much to give, to serve even when you don't get recognition, to hope even when circumstances look hopeless. I'm asking you to believe that I am who I say I am, that I can do what I say I can do, that I will do what I say I will do, and that you are who I say you are. I'm asking you to trust that. My love for you is real. My plans for you are good. My power in you is unlimited, and my purposes through you are eternal. But here's what I want you to understand about this yes I'm asking for. It's not just about what you're giving up. It's about what you're gaining. It's not just about what you're sacrificing. It's about what you're receiving. It's not just about what you're surrendering. You're saying yes to a love that will never let you down, never let you go, never give up on you, and never stop believing in you. You're saying yes to a peace that surpasses understanding, a joy that no one can take away, a hope that never disappoints, and a purpose that gives meaning to every moment of your life. You're saying yes to supernatural provision for every need, divine protection in every storm, miraculous healing in every area of brokenness, and unlimited access to the wisdom, strength, and power of heaven itself. You're saying yes to being part of something so much bigger than yourself that even your wildest dreams pale in comparison to the reality of what I have planned. You're saying yes to making a difference that matters, leaving a legacy that lasts, and impacting eternity through the way you live your life on earth. You're saying yes to seeing lives transformed, families restored, communities healed, and nations changed through the love, grace, and power that flows through your surrendered life. But most importantly, you're saying yes to the relationship you were created for, the intimacy your soul has been craving, the connection that satisfies the deepest longings of your heart. You're saying yes to walking through life with me as your closest friend, your wisest counselor, your strongest protector, your most faithful companion, and your eternal destination. This is the yes that changes everything. This is the decision that rewrites your story, redefines your destiny, and releases the supernatural into every area of your life. This is the moment when your ordinary life becomes extraordinary, when your natural abilities become supernatural, when your human limitations become divine possibilities. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't have to be perfect to say yes. You don't have to have it all figured out to say yes. You don't have to be worthy to say yes. You don't have to be ready to say yes. You just have to be willing to say yes, and I'll take care of everything else. I'll make you worthy through my righteousness. I'll make you ready through my preparation. I'll make you perfect through my grace. I'll make you strong through my power. I'll make you wise through my spirit. I'll make you effective through my anointing. All you have to do is say yes. So what's your answer? What's your response to everything I've shown you? Everything I've promised you? Everything I'm offering you? Will you say yes to the adventure of a lifetime, the purpose of eternity, the calling of the ages? If your heart is saying yes, if your spirit is stirring with excitement, if your soul is crying out for this kind of life, then I want you to pray this prayer with me right now. Jesus, I say yes. Yes to you. Yes to your love. Yes to your calling. Yes to your purposes. Yes to your plan. I give you my life, all of it, every part of it, holding nothing back. I trust you with my past, my present, and my future. I believe that you are who you say you are, and that you will do what you say you will do. Transform me, use me, send me wherever you want me to go. I am yours completely and forever. In your holy name, Amen. But what if you're still questioning whether this message is really meant for you? What if you're wondering whether your life actually has the significance I've been describing? What if you're doubting whether someone with your history, your failures, your limitations could truly be used by God to impact eternity? If you want the answer to those questions, if you need confirmation that this calling is real, if you're hungry for more truth about your identity and destiny, then wait for the next message. And while you wait, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single word of what I want to speak over your life. Like this video, if it's stirring something in your heart, comment below and let me know you're saying yes to this adventure. And share this message with others who need to hear that their life matters, their story has purpose, and their future is filled with hope. And if you feel led to support this ministry, to help these messages reach more people who desperately need to hear them, you can buy me a coffee through the link in the description. Every dollar you give is an investment in the kingdom of God, a seed sown into eternal purposes, a partnership with me in reaching the lost, the broken, the hopeless, and the hurting with the good news that I love them. I have a plan for them, and their best days are still ahead of them. The choice is yours. The moment is now. The door is open. Will you walk through it?